No Pokemon has humbled me more as a LEGO builder than Zygarde's complete form. But the end result turned out to be an absolute unit. This thing is built around a massive Technic inner frame, has 5 fully articulating tendrils, highly detailed movable armor plating, custom lighting, and attack-based play features, making it ready to 1v1 any Pokemon Ultra Beast or Rogue Mega Evolution. But enough yapping, let's break it down. I got this idea from building a Gundam model kit recently, and I knew I wanted to try implementing it into LEGO. Zygarde's 100% form is basically the size of a kaiju with equally massive stats in both defense and HP, so I wanted this mock to be super big and super strong to reflect that. However, bigger mechs mean heavier limbs. If the lower frame can't support the weight, everything collapses. Another problem with big builds is that they require a ton of parts, especially in the legs, which makes them super heavy, reducing the friction of most of the standard LEGO joint assemblies. The good thing is that I have a secret weapon that fixes all of that. These 4x6 Technic bricks. I love these things because they add height without adding weight. And the 3 holes on each side let me use my all-time favorite LEGO piece, these massive rotation joints. I really get to use these things as knees, so forgive me for being more than just a little bit geeked. However, these parts alone still aren't tall enough, so we'll add a 1x4 Technic brick on either side to bump up the height a bit. Having strong shins is one thing, but without stable ankles, this whole build goes down faster than my team during that Mega Barbarical fight. Drop a like if you struggled with that one too. Traditional LEGO joints just weren't cutting it. They either had great range or great friction, but never both. The foot connection needed to slide backward and forward slightly for posing, but still hold its stance under a heavy load. The solution came from stacking 2 socket bricks with a ball and axle connection. That setup lets the ball joints anchor in place while the axle slide through a pair of Technic bricks, creating a hybrid joint that flexes and locks. Nice! It's surprisingly simple, but turned out to be super effective. It adds just enough micro movement for dynamic poses without sacrificing strength in any way, shape, or form. Definitely gotta remember that one for later. Now that we've conquered the cankles, it's time to quell the quads. Bars. At first, I considered using this 4x4 version of the Technic brick that we used for the shins, but that looked awkward. It didn't really match the slender design of Zygarde's legs. So I decided to simplify the design a bit by using the same technique that I used for the Exo-Toa build a few videos ago. By stacking a few of these round 3x3 elements on top of each other, we get a really clean thigh design. I was originally going to use this for the bicep, but I thought that it would be a better fit here, so I repurposed it during the final redesign. Zygarde's waist seems simple. It's basically this long, black, kinda thick, oh my god, pause. It's a cylinder with a few green and white details. Easy enough, right? Yeah, not even close. I wanted to use this rigid turntable to give the build a clean waist rotation, but also pair it with a 3x3 Technic hub for the hip connection to maintain that sleek, compact design of Zygarde's silhouette. There was just one problem. There's no obvious way to connect these 2 pieces securely, especially not well enough to hold the massive weight of this model. After a ton of trial and error, I finally found a solution. Attach a hub with a small stack of system bricks and plates, and then lock everything into place by sandwiching it from behind. Then I leveled that technique up even more by adding 1x4 Technic bricks across the top to widen the surface area, and then mounting 4 of these 2x2 brackets gave me a 4x4 plate to securely attach the turntable. Big brain. And just to make sure everything stays rock solid, I hid an axle with a stop underneath the turntable and then fed it through a few more round Technic plates for the center. That way, the entire waist assembly stays locked into place even under heavy twists and turns. Did I need to go this hard? No. Is it over-engineered? Absolutely. But you know me, I always prioritize play, and what good is having an inner frame if the core isn't rock solid? Now that the lower body is locked in, it's time to move up and tackle the chest. This section had to do 3 things. 1. Anchor the arms. 2. Capture Zygarde's curved organic armor shape. And 3rd, but most importantly, support the 5 massive tendrils that we're going to get to later. We'll start by building around another one of these Technic bricks. This time we're going to go big and use one of the 6x8 ones. We'll add in some brackets so that we can add some lore-inspired armor plating to the front a little bit later. I was tempted to use these rotation joints again for the arms, but since we moved the rounded design to the thighs, let's go with something a little bit more simple here. Zygarde's bicep is actually pretty scrawny, so I think that this CCBS bone piece would be perfect. But we'll need to embed some axle bricks inside of that Technic brick so that the ball joints can lock into place. But before we do that, we'll attach a mix of different plates to give us that tapered shape on the bottom. Now, we have the perfect spot to attach our axle bricks. The forearm actually turned out to be one of the harder pieces of this build. Zygarde's forearms are kind of weird and bulbous, and at first I thought that I'd just use a hollow cone piece and add in some custom stickers, but that felt like kind of a cop-out, so I decided to build up a more intricate version. We'll wrap things up by attaching these Technic brick assemblies on either side of the shoulders. We'll use these for connection points for the tendrils later. This wouldn't be a Pokemech without a little bit of lore tied in. See this gradient pattern running across Zygarde's chest? The colors shift from red to orange to white to cyan to blue. Now, the red and blue are obviously a nod to Yveltal and Xerneas, the Pokemon that embody destruction and creation, but while researching Zygarde's lore for this video, I learned that the orange and cyan might actually represent Solgaleo and Lunala. That subtle connection between regions blew my mind. I hope Game Freak expands on the meaning of this detail at some point in a later game. But for now, we'll integrate it into the design by building out the front grille using a mix of slopes and snot bricks, layering the colors to mirror that exact transition from red to blue. It's a small detail, but it's a critical hit when it comes to making sure that this mechanized Zygarde is instantly recognizable. If there was one part of this build that nearly made me rage quit, it's these tendrils. When Zygarde moves, he whips these things around in every single direction, so I wanted them to be superposable, which turned out to be really finicky and difficult. Each tendril needed a full range of motion, able to swing forward in front of the body and also swivel to the sides, without flopping around or breaking the silhouette. At first, I tried standard ball joint bricks, but they looked way too simple and left ugly gaps. Then I switched to mini ball joints, which solved the gap problem but killed the strength. Next, I doubled up the ball joints using the same technique for my Garchomp build, and that fixed the stability, but it still didn't solve the range of motion issue. No matter what combo I tried, I could not figure out how to get these tendrils to move fluidly between both positions. That's when it clicked. I was locking myself into using just one joint type when I needed to mix up systems. I grabbed a few rotation bricks to use as the anchoring joints above the shoulders. That gave me the rigid pivot I needed to aim the tendrils where I wanted. Then I combined that with the double ball plate assemblies to preserve the organic motion of each individual limb. This combo finally gave me the best of both worlds, mechanical precision and organic movement. Each tendril moves independently but still feels connected to the whole, like Zygarde cells acting in perfect sync. Now that we've got most of the upper body figured out, it's time to turn our attention back to the legs, because right now, they're looking a little scrawny in comparison to the rest of the build. An inner frame might carry the weight, but without armor, it doesn't feel like a complete mech. And on a design like Zygarde, the armor isn't just decoration, it's what sells the scale and personality of the entire build. One of the biggest perks of building around a Technic inner frame is that every armor panel can be modular, which means that we can design and test each component separately, giving us way more freedom and control to pack in small detailed touches. For the shins, I decided to go all in, starting with a set of articulating armor panels mounted on top of a bed of 45-degree slope tiles. That angled structure gives the leg a sense of forward momentum, like it's bracing to charge. And just for some extra mechanical flavor, I dropped in a few of these telescope pieces to mimic pistons. Now don't be fooled, they don't actually move, but visually they make the leg feel engineered, like something that could absorb impact or shift weight dynamically. We'll keep the rest of the paneling relatively clean so that those pistons and angled plates can really stand out. The last major piece to finish off the upper body is the head, and like usual, Harvard absolutely crushed the design. He packed an insane amount of detail into a super compact space, using a mix of clip and bar pieces, and I only had to make a few minor tweaks to lock everything in. All we need to do now is tackle the plate feature and throw in some custom lighting, and trust me, you're not gonna want to miss this. At first, I wanted to build on the projectile idea from the 50% video, but step it up by using these massive Bionicle launchers. The problem? The standard LEGO projectiles they come with just didn't give off the right vibe. They looked, well, pretty basic. So I tried 3D printing the projectile base, hoping that I could glue it to an axle or build a custom connector. But for whatever reason, the 3D printed pieces just wouldn't latch properly, so I ended up scrapping the whole idea. At that point, I could feel my creativity HP stat dropping super fast. But then, it hit me. Maybe the solution wasn't building bigger, but building better. When Zygarde's 10% or 50% form's HP gets low, its signature ability kicks in, Power Construct. When the ability is activated, it pulls in a ton of green energy and transforms into its 100% form. So instead of focusing on the core enforcer projectile, what if I focused on the ability that actually triggers the transformation, allowing it to use the attack? And considering my creativity's HP stat was basically in the red, Yeah, initiating Power Construct felt like absolute cinema. With new inspiration unlocked, I went back to the lab equipped with these neon light tubes that I got from Brick Stuff. I redesigned the tendrils and threaded the green one through the back to sell that energy charging effect. Then I ran the red and blue ones through the front two tendrils to match the chest gradient. And to go even harder, I added a few trans green fin pieces to mimic the energy pooling into Zygarde's body, the same energy that eventually gets expelled when it uses Core Enforcer. Now, all we need to do is bring every one of these pieces together for the final assembly and to get those money shots. And that's it. Zygarde's complete form is finally, well, complete. This was easily one of my most intense projects I have ever taken on. 3 redesigns, hundreds of tiny decisions, a full Technic inner frame, glowing core, modular armor. This build pushed every part of my process: engineering, shaping, articulation, and yeah, my sanity, but I'm proud of how far we took it. I hope it inspires you to try something big, weird, or downright chaotic in your own builds. If you want to see the full Pokemech lineup continue to grow, or you've got ideas for the next legendary that we should mechanize, drop them down in the comments. And if you're new here, consider joining the crew. We build wild stuff like this all the time. Until we build again, trainers, peace and play well. Ah crap, Zygarde just got a new Mega, didn't it? I guess we gotta get back to building.